Hi, this is Kevin from Hockey.bz. This video will show you how you can use our website to manage the evaluation process for your league. I'm on the home page of the website. To start off, I'm going to go to the dashboard. And you can see here every account has a few different components they can work with. We're just going to be working with leagues for now. So I'm going to open up the leagues panel and click Add League. And here we are in our new league. The way that it works is all your divisions for your league are going to be managed from this league component. For the demo, I'm just going to make three leagues or three divisions: U13, U15, U18. But you can put any number. You might have divisions from U7 up to U18, for example. But let's just make a few. These three divisions: U13, U15, and U18, and save our changes. And now we're going to import data. You have lots of data with this evaluation stuff. So the way that we're going to manage the data is through what we call data sets. Every player that gets imported is going to have a number of custom fields associated with them. So by default, you can see here's all the default fields that we're going to have. This is completely customizable, so if you have other information you'd like to bring in, that's straightforward to set up. Okay, I've skipped ahead a bit and imported the test data I'm going to be using for the demo. I just generated that and saved the information in various Excel files. So if I were to go look at our player list, this is all test data. There's no real player information in here, but it probably does look similar to the data that you might export from your team registration program like Team Snap or wherever you're getting it. So it has your phone numbers, address, all that kind of stuff. We also have data from the previous season that we're going to import, coach ratings. So very simple in this case, just 1 to 5 for each player, and the stats from the previous season, so goals, assists, points, penalty minutes, and so on. So we're going to have all that data available as we go through the evaluation process. And you can, if we go back to the website, then you can see I have the player list here. Here's all the records that were imported. Stats, here's the stats, and the coach ratings. So the important thing here about having all this player information collected within a league is that you can see, for this example, I'm just going to focus on U15. So I have 200 test players for U15. I could have brought them all in for different divisions, but let's just stick with U15 for now. But the data sets, the coach ratings and the stats, if you think about it, half the players in your league may have moved up a division from U13 to U15, say. So you don't want to focus only on data that was collected within that division. For the U13 players that have moved up to U15, it would be nice to have all these stats and coach ratings available for the U15 coordinator. So the way that's done is that you can see a hockey ID was imported for the player list, and there's also a hockey ID column that was imported for the stats and for the coach rating. So this system hooks up these hockey IDs and allows it to collect the data for each player regardless of what division they are in for the current year. Okay, before we take a more detailed look at that data that we imported, let's talk a little about privacy and security. The one nice thing about this software is that it gives you a lot of control over who has access to the data that I imported. Compared to if you're just using Excel files, for example, and emailing them to different people, it's hard to maintain security and know that the people that you're receiving the data is keeping it secure. So what the system allows is I can go into this permissions tab and add some league-wide permissions. So if I go, say, my Test2 account that I have here, I can give them permissions to view and edit all the details for any division, and click OK. But I can also go into a division in the permissions tab for a division over here and add some permissions just on a divisional level. And say I have a Test3 account. Here's another just U15 coordinator, for example, and say, okay, you can go and look at the data and use it to manage the divisions, but you don't have any need to look at U13 or U18 data, so you're not going to be able to see it. And you know that all these people that are viewing the data will have accounts on the Hockey.bz website, and you can also enforce strong passwords for these accounts. So you have a lot of control over exactly who's going to be seeing and editing the data. And then at the end of the process, if you want to delete it, it's all in one place and it's easy to do that. Okay, so our league view has collected all of our divisional information at the high level in one place. But let's look at it in more detail about one specific division. In this case, we'll go to U15. And right now I'm looking at the editing view for U15. So per people with editing permissions on a division have a few more capabilities than people that are just going to work more just on the evaluation side of things. So in this edit view, here's a bunch of different actions that we're going to be able to take. You can see that all the data that we imported is available. Okay, and there's some of these little flags, which I'll talk about later. The custom fields were all copied over from the league level, but within this division, I can edit them individually. I can change them around, I can add them because not every division might have exactly the same field. So they can be customized further within a division. Same with data sets. If I want to bring in specific data sets, that are just for U15, say the coordinator has collected some data that he would like to bring in, and that's completely possible to do. Okay, another thing you might want to do at the divisional level is send out emails to either individual players or to the whole group of players. So you can just select who you want and then send a typical email out. And if we come over here to the events tab, things are going to get a little more interesting. You can see that we imported from the league level, we imported the different events from a spreadsheet. So in this case, we have 200 players in the U15 division. And this demo league, what we're going to want to try to set up is 2 evaluation skates for each of those players. So you can see we have 7 ice times. So that gives us a little less than 30 players per ice time. Sessions 1 through 7 are on pool 1. So every player will get an ice time in pool 1, and every player will get an ice time in pool 2. We also have divided up the pools into 2 tiers. So based on preliminary data that we have for the players, we're going to have 3 sessions for the stronger players and 4, say, for the weaker players. There's some other data you can add. If you use pinnies for your evaluations, you can specify what they're going to be here, and they'll be randomly assigned. Location and maps and all that kind of stuff will be sent out to players when they get the invites for the sessions. But if we have a look at the tiers, we can see a tier. Actually, let's go over to the roster tab, and you can see when players are first imported, they're just given this default score of 50. So every player is 50. So that's not going to allow us to set up tiers. You can see we have 2 tiers, A and B. For now, just by default, tier A has only 1 player in it, but that's not what we're going to want. We're going to want probably 85 players in tier A, and then the remaining will go into tier B. But if we assign tiers now, it's not going to make much sense because everybody's weighted the same. Okay, so to set up our tiers, what we're going to do is jump over to the evaluate view. So this is the view that your coordinators are going to be working more closely with, and setting up what we call metrics is something that they probably will want to do to play around with the different weightings for the data that you're collecting. Of course, at the end of the evaluations, you're going to have this evaluation data itself, which you can weight as you need to, but we don't have that right now. But what we can do is we'll add some metrics, and I'm going to do that and then come right back. Okay, so as you can see here, I've pulled out some of the data that we've imported for the players and created 4 different metrics. We have coach rating from the previous season, points scored in previous season, parent rating as provided on the registration form, and the birth year. So each of these I've given a weight. For birth year, it's not a huge bump. We're just going to call that the weight 0.5. The coach rating we're going to consider the most important thing along with the evaluations themselves. But prior to the evaluations, we still have quite a bit of data to be able to work with to do tiers for our players. So you can see here's the information that we put. So the coach rating can be from 5 is the weakest players and 1 is the highest. And then if we come over to our scoring table here, you can see that each of the players is ranked and they're given the maximum points are shown over here on the right. So if we select this Anthony Raymond person, then out of 3 available coach rating points, they got 2.87. They got 1.66 from the points they scored in the last year for their stats. Their parents rated them very strongly. So they got all the points available. And the birth year, they would be a second-year player, so they didn't get points. But you can see here, the scores are all calculated based on these metrics, and each player is assigned a rank. So the ranks will be used for the tiering. If I come back to metrics, and let's just say for some reason we really want to highly rate the parent rating, then we can change the weight here. Let's put it up to 5 just as an example, and save changes. And come back over here. You can see all the top players in this ranking have a 5 parent rating. You can see it's because it's weighted so heavily. The overall rankings are going to be, really affected by that. Okay, so I've reset our parent rating to be weighted just for 1 point. So we have the original scores that we looked at for each player, and we're going to use these ranks to form the tiers. So let's jump back to the edit view to do that now. So here's our tiers. If you remember, we have tier A and B, and tier A, we're going to have 85 players. So all we have to do is click Assign Tiers. And it went, and if we look at the player list, you can see it took the top 85 players according to our rank here. There's a few ties at the bottom, and then the remaining players would be in tier B. Okay, and after we assign our tiers, you can move individual players from tier to tier if you want. For some reason, you can just click the move button and then select a new tier. Now, if we jump over to the events, you can see that there's 7 events for each of the 2 pools, 3 for tier A and 4 for tier B. So now we want to assign players within each tier to each event. So right now, there's no players assigned for any event. If we come to the tiers and click Assign Events, it'll prompt us to choose which pools that we want. In some cases, you might want to reevaluate players after 1 or 2 evaluation sessions have run. In our case, we're just going to take the tiers and assign all the players to an event in each of the pools. And now if we come to the events, you can see roughly an equal number of players have been assigned to each of the events in each pool. Now, if friend requests have been specified when you imported your data, then we'll make an attempt to honor those friend requests so long as the players are in the same tier. Then we do place priority on trying to get friends, even in the evaluation sessions. Okay, now that we have events assigned, the next step is to send out invitations to the group. You can send all the players invitations all at the same time. For this demo, I'm just going to send to one player. You can see most of these are made up email addresses, but I do have a couple of test ones here that'll actually work. So I'm going to send the invite to this player. I could add a note if I wanted to, but I'm just going to send it. And I got a confirmation that 2 invitations were sent. So 1 invitation for each of the 2 events that this person has been assigned to. And now if I go to my email, you can see that the 2 invites have arrived, one for evaluation 1 and one for evaluation 2. So these are equivalent to pool 1 and pool 2. And if I open one of the emails, you can see all the details about where this person is going to go. I've added maps to the events, so I can click on this link and jump to view a map to the location. And the more important thing maybe is these buttons right here, going, maybe, not going. So all the players are encouraged to complete this. Let's just say I'm a maybe. Okay, so the link has taken us to the Hockey.bz website. The player is just here as a guest. You can see over here, it's not actually my account that I've been doing the demo with. This is what an actual player would see. they're going to be able to update their availability. They don't have to have an account on the website or anything. So over here, you can see availability is maybe. That's the link that we clicked. Down here also maybe. On the right, you're going to see some different options. They can change it to going. If I click that, then it shows that they're going. But there's also some other options here. So Barry Rice was in Tier B. So as we know, there's 4 events associated with Tier B. One of them is full already, but these other 2 still have spots available. So let's just say the Friday, September 13 doesn't work, but they can't make it on Tuesday and they prefer the later time. So if you just click move here, now that player is now assigned to this alternate time. Okay, now if I go back to my email, you can see there's a couple of new emails that have arrived. Here's my confirmation for the first time I clicked maybe on the original invite. And then here's the confirmation for when I clicked to change to the September 10 invite. Okay, now if we go back to the editor view, we can see here that Barry Rice is marked as a partial reply. So that's because he got 2 invites and we responded to one of them. If I were to respond to the other one, then it would show up as being replied. So now if we jump to the evaluate view, we can see quite a bit more information. So here for evaluation number 1, our pool number 1, here's our 7 sessions, A and B tiers. And you can see that this is the session that we moved Barry Rice to. So we have 1 check mark under that column. There's overall 29 players in the session and 2 goalies, and 28 haven't replied and 1 has. So, as you're going through, after you send the invites in, then hopefully you'll get lots of responses. You can just go resend invites or prompt people to respond if they haven't already. And ideally with the trades and the prompts, then you can get a very high percentage of your people invited to each session confirmed. Over on the right, you can see there's a breakdown player by player of their status. I can actually go and click this as an administrator and see that similar view to what Barry Rice saw when he clicked the link from his email. So I could move them around here too. So the other thing I can do as a league coordinator is to move the player to a different tier. So when Barry Rice clicked the link, then he could only see moves possible within his tier, but I can move it to any event within the pool. There's a couple of other things to note here. So you can see goalies. When events are assigned, the goalies are distributed equally to the different events. And trades for goalies are actually managed independently of skaters. And pinnies haven't been assigned yet. We'll get to that. If a player had waitlisted themselves for a different event, that'll be shown here. And this scoring column is going to be filled out once the evaluation results come in. Okay, let's have a look at a few more features that would be of interest to coordinators. Here's our player list for the whole division. And you can see over here on the right, we have some details, friends and basically all the information that we imported. We have the contact information. We have their status for availability. No stats were collected for this player from the previous season. Here's a player that did have some stats and some notes. So if we scroll down, let's have a look at the notes. So Catherine Barber, we can see it has some notes. So these notes were actually imported. Maybe your registrar added some notes. I just have some default notes that I added here. But they got imported along with the rest of the player data. And when notes were detected, then we set this flag needs review. So that puts flags in a number of places. You can say, okay, this person has something special that of note for the coordinator. So you can add some more notes and just say this was dealt with. And we fixed that thing, and then the review was complete. And if we save some changes, then you can see that note flag went away, and as it did over here for Catherine Barr. So the system's also set up to handle one or more friend requests for each player. If we have a look at Ann Burton, you can see she has this red F beside her name. So friend not found, Caitlin Norris. And if we scroll down to Caitlin Norris, then you can see she is a friend, but it's not reciprocated. So often for leagues, you're going to want both friends to say, I want to be on the same team as this other person. But hers looks like, okay, Ann Burton does exist. We know that, so that's okay. But if I go back to Ann Burton and have a look, I can actually see that the friend list, there's a misspelling in the name. So it couldn't match up. But all I can fix that just by going in and typing the correct name. And now you can see Ann Burton, that flag is gone, so the friend has been set up properly. Okay, so we have a couple more things to do before we're ready for the evaluations. One thing is to assign pinnies. So here's our evaluation session number 5. And if you remember earlier, we defined the ranges of pinnies. In this example, we have 4 colors of pinnies from 1 to 8. So if I click this assign button, then it's randomly going to assign a pinny to each player. And now I can export that information. And if I open the file, you can see we have a formatted document that you can just print. If you want to print to PDF, you can email it to someone, or if you're bringing it to the rink yourself, you can just print this off and it's ready to go at the registration desk. Okay, let's have a look at how we can use Hockey.bz to manage volunteers for our evaluation sessions. You can see that I'm back on the dashboard for the test account I'm using for the demo, and there's a panel here, volunteers. So I'm going to go add a new volunteer team for this group. So you can see I'm on the editing panel for volunteers. As a first step, we can go and add the jobs that we want for each evaluation session. So let me go and add some jobs and I'll come right back. So here we have 4 pretty typical jobs for an evaluation: registration desk, player support, on-ice coaches, and observers. So we got those in just with a description for each of them. Let's go to the events and add an event. So I can manually add events one at a time, or else I can import them the same as we did for the divisions. So let's do an import, select a file from our test data again here. And I have volunteer event times. We'll just bring in the U15 times. And you can see here's we have 14 different events that we've been working with. So this is the same as when we were setting up evaluation pools. Okay, so we have our jobs, we have our events, and now let's go to this matrix. So, you know, it doesn't have to be that complicated for managing evaluations. Each of the sessions that we're going to run are typically going to have the same jobs and the same number of people you want for each job. And, you know, so what we've set up here is a matrix with the events on the top and the different jobs on the left. And for each of these jobs, let's say I want 2 volunteers for registration. I just want 1 for volunteer support. I want 4 on-ice coaches. And let's say we want 5 observers giving the evaluation scores during each session. So, you know, we have 10 or 11 volunteer positions for each session. You can see they're all set up here. If I ever want to customize one of the sessions for some reason, let's just say the first one we only need 3, we can just go update them individually, but you know, that may or may not be necessary for you. You can also see that there's quite a lot of information on the screen. If you prefer to manage sessions on a day-to-day basis, we can just set that flag over here and go back to the matrix, and then we'll have to drop down to manage things on a day-to-day basis. So let's save this. Okay, let's take a quick jump over to the admin tab, and you can see here are the different links. There's the overall link for all the volunteer opportunities, and if you want to jump to a particular page or a day, then you can copy these individual links. So these links are what you would send out in an email to your league families probably. Okay, so let's imagine that you copy this link and send it out to some of your families. parent receives the link and says, yes, okay, I can volunteer, and they click it. I'm going to jump over to a different browser where I'm not logged in and paste a link. And this is what the volunteer would see when they first get on. So there's a little hint about how to sign up. And then they can hover over this information icon for each of the available jobs. And you can see there's a few people that have signed up. So where nobody signed up, it's all red. In this case, we have 2 signups or one of the 2 signups for registration desk, a player support person. And you're like, oh yeah, I know Linda. I'm going to sign up to work with her. She's only signed up for 1. So let me sign up as well. My name's Kevin. I'm going to put a test email in. And now we can see we have 2 signups for this. And let's just say another parent clicks the volunteer link and says, okay, I can be a coach for all 3 of these sessions on September 9th. So they can click this plus sign over here and sign up for multiple events at once. Let's say her name is Kathy. I'll put my email so I can show you what it'll look like. Now when I go to my email, you can see here's my registration desk confirmation, and here's, again, the test confirmation to be an on-ice coach for Kathy. So she got 3 sessions listed here. For both of these emails, I can click a link. So even though I'm not signed up necessarily with an account on the Hockey.bz website, it still knows from the link details that, okay, this is my registration link. If I click it, I can update it, add a note, or cancel it if I want. Now, if I jump back to the editing view and go to the matrix, you can see that I'm getting some visual indications. I still don't have people signed up for these red positions. I filled the registration desk and player support, and I can see who signed up. And I know I have the partial signups for the on-ice coaches. So you can see that Kathy has signed up for all these different sessions. If I want to send emails to volunteers, I can go to this tab, filter by jobs or events if you'd like. Enter your text and click send, and the selected people will get the emails that you send out. And one final thing of interest for volunteers is this export button. Again, you can select the jobs or events you want to export, click the button, download the file, and you can see, again, we don't have a lot of signups, but in real life, hopefully you'll have all your positions filled. You can print this out as a PDF or just bring it to the rink and make it available to people at the registration desk. So let's say you finished all this setup, you got your volunteers signed up, you have assigned different players to events, they all have pennies assigned to them, you printed out the sheets for the registration desk, evaluation day is here, people start arriving at the rink, and you need a way to get the evaluation data from your observers into the Hockey.bz system. So one way could be to use these scannable forms, which we've done in the past. Another option might be to use this simplified web page on the Hockey.bz website. So I've resized my browser to simulate what someone might see if they visit the site on their phone. There's a straightforward link here on the top that you could be provided or you could give to evaluators before the session or at the registration desk. And in this case, we'll assume that evaluators have been pre-registered. For security, you don't have to be logged into the website to be an evaluator, but there is a passcode for each event. So let's put that in. And then you'd also be given, evaluators would also be given an ID. So let's put that in. And we could see, okay, now that I'm authenticated, we have this Kathy user, which we've seen before as a volunteer. If I close that and confirm with the session, okay, these all details. So I know I'm in the right place. And now if I scroll down, you can see that we have our different penny colors with the slider for each of the players that would be skating in the evaluation. And at the bottom, there's an area to type some notes. But, you know, as the evaluators watch the session, they can just drag the sliders back and forth. And you'll get some scores for each player. And now as I'm entering these, they're updated dynamically. And if I'm the evaluation manager and I come to this page, then you can see, okay, previously during testing, I entered some test scores, and then here's the new scores that Kathy had just entered. If I'm an evaluator, I can also enter some notes for each user. Click the little clipboard icon and type in some test notes. And I can make notes just for myself as I'm watching the evaluation, or I can click this button here and make these comments available to the coordinator. So if I save it, and then I come back to the evaluation view and scroll down so I can see here's some notes that I had made before, and here's the test notes that I just entered. Okay, now let's go back to the U15 division that we've been working with. And you can see over here on the right, here's the scoring for the different players. So again, this is just randomly generated data, so it's not really consistent with each other, but you can get the general idea. If we come over to the scoring tab for the evaluations, you can see evaluation number 1, all the data is now available. So the overall scores have been updated and the ranks. Okay, so let's say the evaluations are over. We've got all our data imported and we're ready to start drafting the players onto different teams. As a starting point, we can go to the edit view. We can manually enter the team information, but it's always a little quicker just to import it from a spreadsheet. So we'll choose evaluation teams, and we'll just have some teams for U15 right here. And so here's the different, we got a dozen teams. Okay, let's go back to our evaluate view. You can see that the teams have been created, but there's no players on any of these teams. So the next step is to click this build teams button, which will draft players for each team. And here we go. So all the teams have players now. So it's basically every team gets a head coach and assistant coaches and goalies, and friend requests are accommodated as we go through and assign players to the team. But for this league, what we're trying to do is keep all the teams roughly of equal skill. The average in this case is around 50, so you can see that all the teams are pretty close to 50. It's also showing, some stats, some default stats, players that'll play any position, forwards, defense. So this is definitely something that the coordinators want to have a close look at to make sure that the teams are balanced from that point of view. So right now we're looking at what we call the stats view. We can go to the player view, and that has a list of players. By default, they're organized by their evaluation score. If I want to jump from one view to another, I can just click the header for that team, or I can change them all by clicking the link up on the right. You can also see some flags. This is players that need review. Typically, you're going to want to make sure that all the review items are resolved for a player in case they specified something during registration or some kind of issue was identified during the evaluations themselves. And we have a couple other default flags, the head coach, H, and assistant coaches. And so this screen is probably where your coordinators are going to be spending a lot of their time. If I move a player, for example, a top player from one team to another, I can just drag them over, and you can see the scores for these relative teams. So Whalers are getting weaker and weaker, Avalanche are getting stronger and stronger. And if I were to move some weak pairs back, you can see the teams are definitely getting unbalanced. So, as you make updates, then the system will update itself right away. Here's our friends Ann Burton and Caitlin Norris, if you remember. If I move just one of these players to another team, and here she is up here. So she has an X beside her name, and you can see that that means that, oh, I'm missing a friend. Caitlin Norris also has an X by her name saying she's missing Ann Burton, who's now on the Capitals. Now, if I move Caitlin over to the Capitals, you can see the X's go away. And let's just move a player back to the Avalanche to make the equal number of players. Let's have a closer look at the stats view for each team. This information by default is pulled from the stats tab over here. And you can see right now we're just showing, the counts of the various types of players and problems potentially with each team. But I can come on my stats tab and I can say, okay, right now I'm showing the count, but let's show the average as well. And for defensemen, let's show the average. And if I come back to teams, then you're going to see, okay, I have 7 forwards, average skill, 51, defensemen average 54. So they're roughly equal in skill. Capitals have a stronger forward team. So, when you're balancing teams, this kind of information might be helpful. You can also come in stats. You can add a new stat. Let's say we want to have a stat based on penalty minutes. So we select, here's all the options. So penalty minutes. And we're going to say how many players in each team have greater than 20 penalty minutes in the previous season. And if I come back to the teams, so a couple have 6. The Wolverines don't have any. Let's have a look at flags. So these flags add a lot of value, I think, to the system. They really can help you identify problems. So we have some default flags that I think most of these we've talked about already, about missing friend requests and players that need review, head and assistant coaches. But we can add another flag, and we can base this flag on any of the pieces of information that we have for a player. Or we can also make team flags. So let's just say we want to use that new penalty minute stat that we just created. We can create a flag based on that team stat and say, I want to know whenever a team has 6 or more players with 20 penalty minutes. So let's change this character. We'll make it a P. And let's highlight it in red. So now if we come to the teams, you can see here's the teams we saw before that are highlighted in red. After you start getting a lot of information, it's easy to overlook things, especially as you're making trades and stuff like that. You might not remember to check every possible combination for the teams, but these automatic flags can help you identify potential problems. So I just took some time to create another flag that's based on the average score for the defensemen of each team. So I want to identify, in this case, team outliers. So teams that are 15% stronger or weaker than other teams. So if I come to the teams tab, I can see that the Hawks actually got flagged for this. Their average score is only 41 for D. So, as the coordinator, you might set a flag like that and say, okay, well, maybe I should add a stronger D or 2 to the Hawks. Okay, the last step in the process will be to export the teams that we created. Let's just assume that these players are going to be the final players for each team. And now we want to get the data in a format that we can use to maybe import into another league management tool, such as TeamSnap. So we can just go up to export, choose some player information. We just have some basics by default. Let's put all the teams in different tabs in the output file and export. And now when we come and open this file, here's our players and their email. Okay, that's it for this video. Please contact us if you have any questions. We can probably customize a lot of what we just demonstrated for your league. We also have, quite a few other features on the Hockey.bz website. We're always working to improve it. After you create your evaluation teams, you can also generate equivalent teams on the Hockey.bz website. And then you can assign lessons and do other online training with the teams, such as interactive drills. We're working to add features like progress tracking throughout the course of a season, practice planning, and that kind of thing. So please get in touch with us. Thanks for watching the video and have a great day.